Shalom, brothers and sisters. Tonight we are continuing our study in Enoch. We're going to do chapters 90 through 100. It seems as though I left chapter 90 off of the last study, so we're going to tack it onto this one. So go ahead if you've gotten one of these books and grab it and turn to chapter 90 of Enoch, and we'll get started this evening. Alright, gang, let's get going here. This is a continuation of what the metaphors from the last study on the entire book of the Bible. I think this time we're going into the Judgment. Okay? So, let's get started. Chapter 90. And I saw until that in this manner 35 shepherds undertook the pasturing of the sheep, and they completed their periods as did the first, and others received them into their hands to pasture them for their period, each shepherd in his own period. And after that I saw in my vision all the birds of heaven coming, the eagles and the vultures, the kites, the ravens. But the eagles led all the birds, and they began to devour those sheep, and to pick out their eyes and devour their flesh. And the sheep cried out, because their flesh was being devoured by the birds. And as for me, I looked and lamented in my sleep over that shepherd who pastured the sheep. And I saw until those sheep were devoured by the dogs, and the eagles, and kites, and they left neither flesh nor skin nor sinew remaining on them, until only their bones stood there, and their bones too fell to the earth, and the sheep became few. And I saw until that 23 had undertaken the pasturing, and completed in their many periods 58 times. But behold, lambs were born by those white sheep, and they began to open their eyes and to see, and to cry to the sheep. They cried to them, but they did not hearken to what they said to them, but were very deaf, and their eyes were very blinded. And I saw the vision, how the ravens flew on those lambs, and took one of those lambs, and dashed the sheep in pieces, and devoured them. And I saw until horns grew on those lambs, and the ravens cast down their horns. And I saw until there sprouted a great horn on one of those sheep, and their eyes were opened. And it looked at them, and their eyes opened, and it cried to the sheep, and the rams saw it, and all ran to it. And notwithstanding all this, those eagles and vultures and ravens and kites kept on tearing the sheep, and swooping down on them, and devouring them, until the sheep remained silent, but the rams lamented and cried out. Verse 12. And those ravens fought and battled with it, and sought to lay low its horn, but they had no power over it. All the eagles and vultures and ravens and kites were gathered together, and there came with them all the sheep of the field. They all came together, and helped each other to break that horn of the ram. And I saw that man, who wrote down the names of the shepherds, and brought them up before the Lord of the sheep, came, and he helped that ram, and showed it everything. Its help was coming down. And I looked until that Lord of the sheep came to them angry. All those who saw him ran, and they all fell into the shadow in front of him. All the eagles and vultures and ravens and kites gathered together, and brought with them all the wild sheep. And they all came together and helped one another in order to dash that horn of the ram in pieces. And I looked at that man who wrote the book at the command of the Lord until he opened that book of the destruction that those last 12 shepherds had done, and he showed, in the front of the Lord of the sheep, that they had destroyed even more than those before them had. And I looked, and the Lord of the sheep came to them, and took the staff of his anger, and he struck the earth, and the earth was split, and all the animals and the birds of the sky fell from those sheep, and sank in the earth, and it closed over them. And I saw until a great sword was given to the sheep, and the sheep proceeded against all the beasts of the field to slay them, and all the beasts and the birds of the heaven fled before their face. And I saw that man who wrote the book according to the command of the Lord, until he opened that book concerning the destruction which those 12 last shepherds had wrought, and showed that they had destroyed much more than their predecessors before the Lord of the sheep. And I saw until the Lord of the sheep came to them, and took in his hand the staff of his wrath, and smote the earth, and the earth clave asunder, and all the beasts and all the birds of heaven fell from among those sheep, and were swallowed up in the earth, and it covered them. And I saw until a throne was erected in the pleasant land, and the Lord of the sheep sat himself on it. And the other took the sealed books, and opened those books before the Lord of the sheep. And the Lord called those men, the 7 first white ones, and commanded that they should bring before him, beginning with the first star which led the way, all the stars whose private members were like those of horses, and they brought them all before him. And he said to that man who wrote before him, being one of those 7 white ones, and said to him, Take those 70 shepherds to whom I delivered the sheep, and who, taking them on their own authority, slew more than I commanded them. And behold, they were all bound, I saw, and they all stood before him. And the judgment was held first over the stars, and they were judged and found guilty, and went to the place of condemnation, and they were cast into an abyss, full of fire and flaming, and full of pillars of fire. And those 70 shepherds were judged and found guilty, and they were cast into that fiery abyss. And I saw at that time how a like abyss was opened in the midst of the earth, full of fire, and they brought those blinded sheep, and they were all judged and found guilty, and cast into the fiery abyss, and they burned. Now this abyss was to the right of that house. And I saw those sheep burning, and their bones burning. And I stood up to see until they folded up that old house, and carried off all the pillars, and all the beams and ornaments of the house were at the same time folded up with it, and they carried it off and laid it in a place in the south of the land. And I saw until the Lord of the sheep brought a new house, greater and loftier than the first, and set it up in the place of the first which had been folded up. All its pillars were new, and its ornaments were new, and larger than those of the first, the old one which he had taken away, and all the sheep were within it. Here's our reference. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 14. For here have we no continuing city, but we seek one to come. Verse 30. And I saw all the sheep which had been left, and all the beasts on the earth, and all the birds of heaven, falling down and doing homage to those sheep, and making petition to, and obeying them in everything. And thereafter those 3 who were clothed in white, and had seized me by my hand, who had taken me up before, and the hand of that ram also seizing hold of me, they took me up, and set me down in the midst of those sheep before the judgment took place. And those sheep were all white, and their wool was abundant and clean. And all that had been destroyed and dispersed, and all the beasts of the field, and all the birds of the heaven, assembled in that house, and the Lord of the sheep rejoiced with great joy, because they were all good, and had returned to his house. And I saw until they laid down that sword, which had been given to the sheep, and they brought it back into the house, and it was sealed before the presence of the Lord. And all the sheep were invited into that house, but it held them not. And the eyes of them all were opened, and they saw the good, and there was not one among them that did not see. And I saw that the house was large and broad and very full. And I saw that a white bull was born with large horns, and all the beasts of the field, and all the birds of the air feared him, and made petition to him all the time. And I saw until all their generations were transformed, and they all became white bulls, and the first among them became a lamb, and that lamb became a great animal, and had great black horns on its head, and the Lord of the sheep rejoiced over it, and over all the oxen. And I slept in their midst, and I awoke, and saw everything. This is the vision which I saw while I slept. And I awoke, and blessed the Lord of righteousness, and gave him glory. Then I wept greatly, and all my tears ceased not, until I could no longer endure it. When I saw, they flowed on account of what I had seen. For everything shall come and be fulfilled, and all the deeds of men in their order were shown to me. On that night I remember the first dream, and because of it I wept, and was troubled, because I had seen that vision. Okay, now we've got a couple of author's notes here. Let's go ahead and read those. Author's note. As this section was interpreted from a Jewish point of reference, many have assumed the large horn was Judas Maccabee. In the Christian frame of reference, the same symbol was Yeshua HaMashiach. Here's the second author's note. At this point, the time frame and text flow became non-sequential. It appears that codex was not kept in sequence here. Thus, the translated pages are out of sequence. The flow of time and occurrences seem to follow the pattern listed. And it gives a bunch of different references in Enoch. Chapter 91, verse 6 through 92, verse 1, through 92, verse 5, then jumps to 93:1. The flow then continues from 93:1 to 93:10, and then jumps to 91:7. From 91:7, the text continues to 91:19. It then picks up again at 93:11 and continues. If one were to attempt to put this section into a timeline, the interval would link together in some fashion resembling the following, and it gives a whole list of weeks of judgment. Week 1, Judgment and Righteousness. Chapter 93, verse 3, Enoch's time, antediluvian. Week 2, Judgment and Cleansing. Chapter 93, verse 4, Noah's time and the Great Flood. Week 3, Righteousness is planted. Chapter 93, verse 5, Abraham's time. Week 4, Law for all generations. Chapter 93, verse 6, Moses' time. Week 5, House of Glory. Chapter 93, verse 7, Solomon's time. Week 6, Yeshua ascends, temple burned, elect scattered. Chapter 93, verse 8, Yeshua's time. Week 7, apostate generation, judgment of fire. Chapter 93, verse 9 through chapter 91, verse 11 is our time. Week 8, a sword. Chapter 91, 12 through 13, a new house, new heaven and earth, a future time. Week 9, the righteous judgment revealed. Chapter 91, verse 14, the judgment time. Week 10, God's power is forever. Chapter 91, 15 through 16, eternal time. Okay, I know it's going to be a little bit difficult to try to figure all that out, but like I was saying in the last study, this is all a metaphor of the entire Bible. And in order to understand it, you've got to kind of look into all of this because the timeline is weird. It's kind of like Daniel. When you're reading Daniel, there are several different timelines there that he is discussing. There's even a part of Daniel that was written by Nebuchadnezzar about the time that he was grazing in the field and Daniel was taking care of him. So it's kind of complex, and it's very complex actually because of the metaphors. Okay, let's continue on. When reading the text from this point to the end of chapter 93, one should keep this flow in mind. Okay, so keep all of that in mind. Chapter 91. And now, my son Methuselah, call to me all your brothers and gather together me, all the sons of your mother, for the word calls me, and the Spirit is poured out on me, that I may show you everything that shall befall you forever. And thereon Methuselah went, and summoned to him all his brothers, and assembled his relatives. And he spoke to all the children of righteousness, and said, Hear, you sons of Enoch, all the words of your father, and hearken, as you should, to the voice of my mouth. For I exhort you, and say to you, beloved, love righteousness, and walk in it, and draw near to righteousness without a double heart, and do not associate with those of a double heart, but walk in righteousness, my sons, and it shall guide you on good paths, and righteousness shall be your companion. And here is a reference. James chapter 1 verse 6. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he should receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Verse 5. For I know that violence must increase on the earth, and great punishment will be executed on the earth. It shall be cut off from its roots, and its whole construct will be destroyed. And unrighteousness shall again be complete on the earth, and all the deeds of unrighteousness and of violence and sin shall prevail a second time. And when sin and unrighteousness and blasphemy and violence and all kinds of deeds increase, and apostasy and transgression and uncleanness increase, a great chastisement shall come from heaven on all these, and the Holy Lord will come out with wrath and chastisement to execute judgment on the earth. And here's another reference. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin to be revealed, the son of perdition. Verse 8. In those days violence shall be cut off from its roots, and the roots of unrighteousness together with deceit, and they shall be destroyed from under heaven. And all the idols of the heathen shall be abandoned, and the temples burned with fire, and they shall remove them from the whole earth. And the heathen shall be cast into the judgment of fire, and shall perish in wrath, and in grievous judgment forever. And the righteous shall arise from their sleep, and wisdom shall arise and be given to them. And after that, the roots of unrighteousness, and those who plan violence, and those who commit blasphemy shall be cut off, and the sinners shall be destroyed by the sword. And after this there will be another week, the 8th, that of righteousness, and a sword will be given to it, so that the righteous judgment may be executed on those who do wrong, and the sinners will be handed over into the hands of the righteous. And at its end, they will acquire houses because of their righteousness, and a house will be built for the great King in glory forever. And after this, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment will be revealed to the whole world, and all the deeds of imperious will vanish before the whole earth. And the world will be written down for destruction, and all men will look to the path of uprightness. And after this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there will be eternal judgment that will be executed on the watchers, and the great eternal heaven that will spring from the midst of the angels. And the first heaven will vanish and pass away, and a new heaven will appear, and all the powers of heaven will shine forever with light 7 times as bright. And after this, there will be many weeks without number, forever, in goodness and in righteousness, and from then on, sin will never again be mentioned. And now I tell you, my sons, and show you the paths of righteousness and the paths of violence. I will show them to you again, that you may know what will come to pass. And now hearken to me, my sons, and walk in the paths of righteousness, and walk not in the paths of violence. For all who walk in the paths of unrighteousness shall perish forever. Chapter 92. The book written by Enoch. Enoch indeed wrote this complete doctrine of wisdom, which is praised of all men, and a judge of all the earth. For all my children who shall live on the earth, and for the future generations who shall observe righteousness and peace. Let not your spirit be troubled on account of the times, for the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things. And the righteous one shall arise from sleep, and walk in the paths of righteousness, and all his path and conversation shall be in eternal goodness and grace. He will be gracious to the righteous, and give him eternal righteousness, and he will give him power, so that he shall be with goodness and righteousness, and he shall walk in eternal light. And sin shall perish in darkness forever, and there shall no more be seen from that day forevermore. Chapter 93. Author's Note. Chapter 91 through 93 recount and expand on the events listed in the following weeks of prophecy. The explanation of the events are scattered in chapters 91 through 93. However, the list of events are stated clearly in the following list of weeks in chapter 93. Verse 1. And after that Enoch both gave and began to recount from the book. And Enoch said, Concerning the children of righteousness, and concerning the elect of the world, and concerning the plant of righteousness, I will speak these things. I, Enoch, will declare to you, my sons, according to that which appeared to me in heavenly vision, and which I have known through the word of the holy angels, and have learned from heavenly tablets. And Enoch began to recount from the books, and said, I was born the 7th in the 1st week, Abel, judgment and righteousness still endured. And after me there shall arise in the 2nd week great wickedness, and deceit shall have sprung up, and in it there shall be the first end. And in it a man shall be saved, and after it is ended unrighteousness shall grow up, and a law shall be made for the sinners. And after that, in the 3rd week, at its close, a man shall be elected as the plant of righteousness, at righteous judgment, and his posterity shall become the plant of righteousness forevermore. And after that, in the 4th week, at its close, visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen, and a law for all generations. and an enclosure shall be made for them. And after that, in the 5th week, at its close, the house of glory and dominion shall be built forever. And after that, in the 6th week, all who live in it shall be blinded, and the hearts of all of them shall godlessly forsake wisdom. And in it a man shall ascend. And at its close the house of dominion shall be burned with fire, and the whole race of the chosen roots shall be dispersed. And after that, in the 7th week, shall an apostate generation arise, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate. And at its end shall be elected. The elect righteous of the eternal plant of righteousness shall be chosen to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation. For who is there of all the children of men that is able to hear the voice of the Holy One without being troubled? And who can think his thoughts? Who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? And how should there be one who could behold heaven? And who is there that it could understand the things of heaven, and see a soul or a spirit, and could tell of it, or ascend and see all their ends, and think of them, or do like them? And who is there of all men that could know what is breadth and the length of the earth, and to whom has the measurement been shown of all of them? Excuse me. Or is there anyone who could discern the length of heaven, and how great is its height, and on what it is founded, and how great is the number of the stars, and where all the luminaries rest? Chapter 94. And now I say to you, my sons, love righteousness, and walk in it, because the paths of righteousness are worthy of exception. But the paths of unrighteousness shall suddenly be destroyed and vanish. And to certain men of a generation shall the path of violence and of death be revealed, and they shall hold themselves afar from them, and shall not follow them. And now I say to you, the righteous, walk not in the path of wickedness, nor in the paths of death, and draw not near to them, lest you be destroyed. But seek and choose for yourselves righteousness and an elect life, and walk in the paths of peace, and you shall live and prosper. And hold my words in the thoughts of your hearts, and permit them not to be erased from your hearts. For I know that sinners will tempt men to evilly entreat wisdom, so that no place may be found for her, and temptation will increase. Woe to those who build unrighteousness in opposition, and lay deceit as a foundation, for they shall be suddenly overthrown, and they shall have no peace. Woe to those who build their houses with sin, for from all their foundations shall they be overthrown, and by the sword shall they fall. And those who acquire gold and silver shall suddenly perish in the judgment. Woe to you, you rich, for you have trusted in your riches, and from your riches shall you depart, because you have not remembered the Most High in the days of your riches. You have committed blasphemy and unrighteousness, and have become ready for the day of slaughter, and the day of darkness, and the day of great judgment. Thus I speak and tell you, He who hath created you will overthrow you, and for your fall there shall be no compassion, and your Creator will rejoice at your destruction. And your righteousness shall be a reproach to the sinners and the godless in those days. And here is our reference, James chapter 5, verse 1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborer who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts, as in a day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doeth not resist you. Author's note: in the above biblical verse from James, Sabbath is from the Hebrew plural form of hosts or army. The word is used almost exclusively in conjunction with the divine name as the title of majesty, the Lord of hosts, or the Lord God of hosts. Chapter 95. Would that my eyes were rain clouds of water, that I might weep over you and pour down my tears as a cloud of water, that I might rest from my trouble of heart. Who has permitted you to practice reproach and wickedness? And so judgment shall overtake you, sinners. You righteous, fear not the sinners, for again the Lord will deliver them into your hands, that you may execute judgment on them according to your desires. Woe to you who speak against God, which cannot be removed. Healing shall be far from you because of your sins. Woe to you who repay your neighbors with evil, for you shall be repaid according to your works. Woe to you, lying witnesses, and to those who weigh out injustice, for you shall suddenly perish. Woe to you, sinners, for you persecute the righteous, for you shall be delivered up and persecuted because of injustice, and your yoke shall be heavy on you. Chapter 96. Be hopeful, you righteous, for suddenly shall the sinners perish before you, and you shall have lordship over them according to your desires. And in the days of the tribulation of sinners your children shall mount and rise as eagles, and your nest shall be higher than the vultures. You shall ascend as badgers, and enter the crevices of the earth, and the clefts of the rock, forever before the unrighteous, and the satyrs shall sigh and weep because of you. Wherefore fear not, you have suffered, for healing shall be your portion, and a bright light shall enlighten you, and the voice of rest you shall hear from heaven. Woe to you, you sinners! For your riches make you appear like the righteous, but your hearts convict you of being sinners, and this fact shall be a testimony against you, for a memorial of your evil deeds. Woe to you who devour the finest of the wheat, and drink wine in large bowls, and tread under foot the lowly with your might. Woe to you who drink water from every fountain, for suddenly shall you be consumed and wither away, because you have forsaken the fountain of life. Author's note: the above reference is a euphemism for promiscuity. Verse 7. Woe to you who work unrighteousness and deceit and blasphemy, it shall be a memorial against you for evil. Woe to you, you mighty, who with might oppress the righteous, for the day of your destruction is coming. Many and good days shall come to the righteous in those days, in the days of your judgment. Chapter 97. Believe, you righteous, that the sinners will become a shame and perish in the day of unrighteousness. Be it known to you, you sinners, that the Most High is mindful of your destruction, and the angels of heaven rejoice over your destruction. What will you do, you sinners, and where shall you flee on that day of judgment? when you hear the voice of the prayer of the righteous, you shall fare like to them, against whom these words shall be a testimony. You have been companions of sinners. And in those days the prayer of the righteous shall reach to the Lord, and for you the days of your judgment shall come. And all the words of your unrighteousness shall be read out before the great Holy One, and your faces shall be covered with shame, and he will reject every work which is grounded on unrighteousness. Woe to you, you sinners who live in the middle of the ocean and on the dry land, whose remembrance is evil against you. Woe to you who acquire silver and gold in unrighteousness and say, we have become rich with riches and have possessions and have acquired everything we have desired. And now let us do what we purposed, for we have gathered silver, and many are the servants in our houses, and our granaries are full to the brim, as with the water. Yea, and like water your lies shall flow away, for your riches shall not abide, but quickly depart from you. For you have acquired it all in unrighteousness, and you shall be given over to a great curse. Chapter 98. And now I swear to you, to the wise and to the foolish, that you shall see many experiences on the earth. For you, men, shall put on more adornments than a woman, and colored garments for more than a young woman, like royalty, and in grandeur and in power, and in silver and in gold, and in purple and in splendor, and in food they shall be poured out as water. Therefore they shall have neither knowledge nor wisdom, and because of this they shall die together with their possessions, and with all their glory and their splendor, and in shame and in slaughter and in great destitution. Their spirits shall be thrown into the furnace of fire. I have sworn to you, you sinners, as a mountain has not become a slave, and a hill does not become the servant of a woman, even so sin has not been sent on the earth, but man of himself has created it, and they that commit it shall fall under the great curse. And barrenness has not been given to the woman, but on account of the deeds of her own hands she dies without children. I have sworn to you, you sinners, by the Holy Great One, that all your evil deeds are revealed in heaven, and that none of your wrong deeds are covered and hidden. And do not think in your spirit, nor say in your heart, that you do not know, that you do not see that every sin is recorded every day in heaven in the presence of the Most High. From now on, you know that all your wrongdoing that you do will be written down every day until the day of your judgment. Woe to you, you fools! For through your folly you shall perish, and you do not listen to the wise, so no good will come to you against the wise. And so, and now, so know you that you are prepared for that day of destruction. Therefore do not hope to live, you sinners, but you shall depart and die. For there will be no ransom for you, because you are prepared for the day of the great judgment, for the day of tribulation and great shame for your spirits. Woe to you, you obstinate of heart, who work wickedness and eat blood. Where do you have good things to eat and to drink and to be filled? From all the good things which the Lord the Most High has placed in abundance on the earth, therefore you shall have no peace. Author's note: the above reference to eating blood may indicate cannibalism. Bioengineering, anyone? Baby body parts in our food? Yeah. And here is our reference. Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. Verse 12. Woe to you who love the deeds of unrighteousness! Wherefore do you hope for good for yourselves? You know that you shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous, and they shall cut off your necks and slay you, and have no mercy on you. Woe to you who rejoice in the distress of the righteous, for no grave shall be dug for you. Woe to you who say the words of the wise are empty, for you shall have no hope of life. Woe to you who write down lying and godless words, for they write down their lies, so that men may hear them and act godlessly toward their neighbor. Therefore they shall have no peace, but die sudden death. Chapter 99. Woe to you who do godless acts and praise and honor lies. You shall perish, and no happy life shall be yours. Woe to them who pervert the words of righteousness and transgress the eternal law, and count themselves as sinless. They shall be trodden underfoot on the earth. In those days make ready, you righteous, to raise your prayers as a memorial, and place them as a testimony before the angels, that they may place the sin of the sinners for remember before the Most High. In those days the nations shall be stirred up, and the families of the nations shall rise on the day of destruction. And in those days the destitute shall go and throw their children out, and they shall abandon them, so that their children shall perish because of them. They shall abandon their children that are still babies, and not return to them, and shall have no pity on their loved ones. Look at how many people abandon their kids and kill them in the womb. And here in Colorado, they even have put together this law that says that you can kill a baby after birth. Disgusting, sinful individuals, especially the ones that run this state. They're horrible abominations to the Most High. Sorry, little rant. Verse 6. Again I swear to you, you sinners, that sin is prepared for a day of unceasing bloodshed. We have a reference. Matthew 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows. Gee, it sounds like what's happening around the world right now. Interesting. Verse 7. And they who worship stones, and carved images of gold and silver and wood and stone and clay, and those who worship impure spirits and demons, and all kinds of idols, not according to knowledge, shall get no manner of help from them. And they shall become godless by reason of the folly of their hearts, and their eyes shall be blinded through the fear of their hearts, and through visions in their abominations. Through these they shall become godless and fearful, for they shall have done all their works with lies, and shall have worshipped a stone. Therefore in an instant shall they perish. But in those days blessed are all they who accept the words of wisdom, and understand them, and observe the paths of the Most High, and walk in the path of his righteousness, and become not godless with the godless, for they shall be saved. Woe to you who spread evil to your neighbors, for you shall be slain in hell. Woe to you who make your foundation that of deceitful and lies, and who cause bitterness on the earth, for they shall thereby be utterly consumed. Woe to you who build your houses through the hard labor of others, and all their building materials are the bricks and stones of sin. I tell you, you shall have no peace. Woe to them who reject the measure and eternal inheritance of their fathers, and whose souls follow after idols, for they shall have no rest. Woe to them who do unrighteous acts and help oppression, and kill their neighbors until the day of the great judgment, for he will throw down your glory. For he shall throw down your glory and bring affliction on your hearts, and shall arouse his fierce anger, and destroy you all with the sword, and all the holy and righteous shall remember your sins. And I'm going to stop on 100. Since we had to do 90, we went 90 through 99, and then our next study will go 100 to the end. And at the end, we're going to have an Enoch bonus. Wow! I sure do pray that you guys are able to understand all of that. It helps if you can read it for yourself with your eyeballs and not just hear it with your ears. It helps you to understand a little better because of the metaphors that are going on in there and all of the judgments on Judgment Day, and because of the fact that some of them are not in order, it's very hard to follow. So I pray that y'all were able to follow all of this tonight. It's a great study. It's a really good study, but it's difficult. Like I said at the beginning of this study, through the Bible, we have been studying as if we're nursing on mother's milk. And without a basic knowledge of the Bible, cover to cover, these extra-canonicals are going to be very difficult for you to understand. So if you just happen to stumble across this tonight, please, I beg of you, before you continue through the extra-canonical studies, learn your Bible. Read it from Genesis 1:1 through Revelation 22. Read it all of your Bible, several times. Because without the knowledge of the Bible, these extra-canonicals are just going to confuse you because there's so much in there. Like I said, they're a box of 64 crayons. When you start these studies, you better sharpen up your crayons because they sure do color in the rest. Okay? Alright, gang. That's all I've got for tonight. I hope you're enjoying this, and thank you for continuing to follow me through it. Next study in Enoch should be the last study. And like I said, there's a little bit of a bonus at the end. It's really cool. It's pretty fascinating. But we'll get to that in the next study. Right now, that's all I've got. So you all have a great evening, and we will see you in our next study. Shalom.